This is Trevor Coppola for Anthony J. Hilder, and today I'm interviewing Gary Richard Arnold, newsexpose.org. And you've worked with Anthony before on some other projects. What are some of the things that you've worked on with him in the past?
Yeah, we've had some fun people to power. One of the ones was when Ronald Reagan was being nominated in 1980 in Detroit. We put together a newspaper tabloid for the convention. And of course, on the outside of the tabloid, it was red, white, and blue with Ronald's smiling face. At that time, he had already gone through his governorship and found that his words didn't match his deeds. In fact, he put in the first gun control laws, he put in the regional government by executive order, he put in the Rockefeller appointees all around him. And he was a member of the United World Federalists for 13 years on their letterhead, of which Cord Meyer was the head of. And Cord Meyer was a key CIA operations person connected with Skull and Bones. In fact, he married the daughter. His father-in-law was a member of Skull and Bones. He married Mary Ann Pinchot, I think was the name. In fact, she was a squeeze for JFK for a while. She was later murdered, and it was said that the person that murdered her were the same people that murdered JFK. So Cord Meyer being involved in the CIA and pushing for this United World Federalists with world government, with the European Union. It was the beginnings of the European Union after World War I. They were in coordination with Tom Braden, who was worked for the Committee for a United Europe, which included Alan Dulles and again, you're talking CIA members, founding members of the Council on Foreign Relations. Europe was ravaged in order to create this European Union. In fact, a very important story where the origins of Richard Nixon came from Prescott Bush, who was the father of
George H.
yeah. And of course, all three of these people were members of Skull and Bones. But he was sent out to California, to Orange County, to defeat a Democratic congressman, Jerry Voorhees, who was a congressman from Orange County. And he had written a book called Beyond Victory. And in that particular book, he talks about, and the book was written in the early 1942. He says, how come we're working with Hitler in creating a post-war cartelization of Europe, which is the European Union, is what finally happened. And it said, and he says in his book, he says, this is whether we win the war or not, that this is going on, and they were in collaboration with Hitler at that particular time. But anyway, back to the Detroit convention, we already knew Ronald Reagan was more of a 666 than a red, white, and blue. But we made the graphics very appealing. And at the time, there was one or two other trilateralists running. There was Jimmy Carter and John Anderson, another Republican who was a member of the Trilateral Commission. And we put the phrase up there, will the trilateralist win? And Reagan said he would not appoint anybody to his administration that didn't believe in what he believed in. Mm-hmm. And of course, he's talking forked tongue there. It's a Sapian language. So the people that know he's part of the elite, the ruling elite, brought into the Illuminati and everything else, they hear him, and then the people that are the poor little conservatives, the small business people, and the people that are out there, in the precincts, they go, great, he's not going to betray us with another liberal, Mm-hmm. Of course, the first time he ran, he did Mr. Schweiker from Pennsylvania. I think it was the second most liberal U.S. senator when he ran and failed, in '76. Failed to get the nomination then. But in 1980, he ended up picking Skull and Bones. And of course, we went in with the tabloid knowing ahead of time he was going to betray the people. So mm-hmm. In the articles that we had of Ronald Reagan, he said he would not appoint anybody that he did not philosophically agree with him. Mm-hmm. And then we showed his advisors, 60, 70 advisors, and then on the center page we had a list of all the Council on Foreign Relations members. So if they would match the advisors with the Council on Foreign Relations members, they would they'd figure it out. But it wasn't something you're going to figure out, sitting in a stadium going like this. You're going to, you're going to go home and look at it and go, oh my God. So anyway, we were able to get inside the convention with these stacks of tabloids that were distributed to the delegates. We didn't have the effect we wanted, but what was very interesting, Bush was not brought in until the last day. Kemp, I forget Kemp's first name, Jack Kemp was supposed to be the favorites of the conservatives, and they figured he was going to be the one. But there was a different complexion of the people that showed up on Sunday. In fact, a lot of them had red ties. It was like, again, like a movie. And then when they put in, George Bush, there was a lot of people crying at that. At that particular convention also, it was broken up for the various delegates. And George Bush went to a Canadian hotel in which he was doing a speech to a number of the delegates. And I attended that particular one, and I was able to challenge him on what was happening in Central America with the Iran-Contra and the other type of stuff that was going on there with the drugs to Central America. And he was supporting a founder of the Communist Party against a man by the name of de Abussant in El Salvador. But, again, what these guys and what the people see and believe and what's really happening is nothing like what the newspapers say. But even at the beginning of his administration, these people were already, they committed. The other thing, Reagan in the 1940s was involved in the Democratic Committee for a Far Eastern Policy, which was advocating Mao Zedong take over Red China. In fact, he had cut some pro-communist commercials in the early 1940s. And of course, we were all hoping he had changed. We had written a great speech called "The Time for Choosing," and he did that for Barry Goldwater, and that seemed to redeem him.
It used to be known as Red Ronnie, is that correct?
Exactly. I've got a letter I found in my garage from my first wife, who was in the movie business, and I saved it because she does a reference to Red Ronnie, and I should probably put that in glass somewhere because people normally don't believe this. But that was one time Anthony and I, we went to Truth, got the information in there. We were able to unfurl a banner in there with the 666 changing its shape into the Trilateral Commission emblem. And anyway, we got a lot of bang for the pop, and this is before the internet, and the tabloid was the cheapest way to get information in, and of course you had to put it in a language that would get past the gatekeepers. There was another time in Century City when Dr. Armand Hammer held a $1,000 plate dinner for Ronald Reagan. Dr. Armand Hammer is the son of the founder of the American Communist Party. In fact, Dr. Hammer was later found out through the Venona papers that he was a Soviet agent. And on the desk of Dr. Armand Hammer is a picture of Lenin and Trotsky and Ronald Reagan and his wife, Nancy. But again, we put together a smiling picture of Red Ronnie, and looked like it was for him, and distributed among the head table. My heart wasn't beating light like this, and among the people. And as he was going out the door, I was able to personally hand him one as he reached over and grabbed one, smiling out, thinking it was promoting Ronald Reagan. One of the other times we had learned that McGeorge Bundy was coming to the University of Irvine in Southern California. And they had a great reception for him. They had one of these great big chiseled ice blocks that's for the hors d'oeuvres and the celebrations of him afterwards. Well, we put out some little flyers on the Skull and Bones. I had rented to Dr. Anthony Sutton that got the first stack of secret papers from a daughter whose both father and grandfather were head of the, or members of the Skull and Bones, a secret society that was formed in 1832. And there had never really been a break on that information up until this time. There was one student break-in into the tomb in the 1880s, and one of the researchers went back to Yale and through the libraries and found them referred to as the Brotherhood of Death, which is so appropriate, because when you understand the Skull and Bones, Alphonso Taft, one of the co-founders, he ended up in the Department of War under General Grant. And then William Howard Taft, of course, became during the Mexican-American War, or Spanish-American War, he was both governor of Cuba and the governor of Philippines. During World War I, Henry Stimson was the Secretary of War, Skull and Bones, and they couldn't complete their their League of Nations. So that's when they formed the Council on Foreign Relations to con the American people, and they've virtually taken over the administration and the two political parties, and it's pathetic. More people don't know about it. You know about that, and it'll make a huge difference in your understanding and your actual survival. But during the Second World War, Stimson was put in charge of as Secretary of War once again. Okay, we were talking about the Dr. Armand Hammer being involved in the founding of the American Communist Party. And here you've got Ronald Reagan, who appoints Skull and Bones, supposedly the wealthiest people in the world, conjoining in their projects for world government. Because actually communism is a tool for the Illuminati, because what they do is they concentrate power. Right. Socialism advocates central control. There's independent socialists and there's socialists that are used in order to generate and constrict power. But again, really important to understand that communism is not against the banking establishment. Communism is a tool of the banking establishment in order to create the enslavement.
Yeah, I think that's key for people to understand, that it's just like a bird needs two wings, the right wing, the left wing, to fly. I mean, they're both controlled and they're both run by the same people. And there is no ideology about, I mean, somebody who's a real communist who buys into all that nonsense, they're a small person on the totem pole. They're just a useless idiot. But the people that are manipulating and running it, they know exactly what they're doing.
No, exactly. Most of the arguments we see when they get into the intellectual, even the libertarian and into the, Agenda 21s and how that's supposed to provide everything, community-wise for people, it's not about that. That's what they get people engaged in. It is a conspiracy for control, and right now an elimination of a huge part of the planet and humanity. And that that's where it's at. If you don't understand conspiracy, you're never going to get it. But it doesn't hurt to understand a little bit about free enterprise and the dangers, of concentrations of power. That's valuable, and it's organic to understanding and thriving.
Thanks so much, Gary Richard Arnold, newsexpose.org, for Anthony J. Hilder. Thanks so much.
Thank you.